Ben Laskley, better known as Quadeca, is one of my favorite musicians ever. Once a YouTube rapper, now turned music artist, Quadeca has dropped 4 studio albums and 6 mixtapes in his career. I began listening to Quadeca when he dropped Scrapyard back in 2023, and I genuinely think he has one of the most consistent discographies in music history, past 2021. Because yeesh, before From Me to You, Quadeca was a total mess. His old music was occasionally decent, but often corny, unoriginal, and sloppy. However, I genuinely think that this garbage is what makes Quadeca so inspiring, because despite having so much wrong with him, he still pushed through into making some of the best music I've ever heard. Going through Quadeca's albums is a bit of a journey since you slowly see him move past generic rap to several other kinds of genres with more layered narratives. Another interesting detail about Quadeca is the fact that he produces, writes, and performs everything he makes. Every song talked about in this video was produced and written by him. Whether the song be bad or really good, he still made it. The main reason why I wanted to make this video was because of Quadeca's newest project, Vanisher Horizon Scraper. I had already loved most of his albums before this project, but Vanisher Horizon Scraper is an absolute beast and is one of my favorite albums of all time. I was considering making a video just on Vanisher, but when going through his music, I realized that I actually have a lot, and I mean a lot more to say about Quadeca's music. Plus, I kinda wanted to make an ongoing series for some of my favorite artists since I already did Kendrick Lamar earlier this year. This video will only include songs from Quadeca's albums, being voice memos to Vanisher. I'm not counting singles, deluxes, or mixtapes that aren't Scrapyard. Besides Scrapyard, I haven't heard any of Quadeca's old mixtapes or singles, and I frankly really don't want to because that sounds like hell and this video is already long enough. I'm also going to discuss story elements of each Quadeca album. I may be wrong about some of these narrative points since his albums are up for interpretation, so feel free to discuss what you think these albums mean in the comments. I think that's pretty much all I need to say. Let's get into it. This is every Quadeca song ranked. And my least favorite Quadeca song is Thank You Next off Voice Memos. No, it's not War. Dax is a generational artist. Wow, this song is bad, like really bad. This comes right after A Dream I Can't Remember, a very serious track on drug abuse. To follow that up with this is just awful tonal whiplash. Most of the song is purposely bad, which could be funny, but it doesn't really feel ironic because the beat is kinda ominous and slow, which doesn't fit anything Quadeca is saying. It pretty much fails in every regard, but the song is still pretty funny to make fun of. Rest in peace to Sad Frosty though. Unusual might just be the most generic Quadeca song. Quadeca makes a 3-minute song about how he's different from everyone else in the rap industry. Again, with a bad feature. This track is not good. It's boring and the beat is slow and the entire thing is just like really slow. The B. Lou feature is also really bad. His microphone quality actually sounds awful. I'm not sure how this made it through. Very strange. It's a really boring bad track. There's nothing left to talk about. War is a collaboration between Quadeca and Dax. Yikes. War is often considered to be one of the worst Quadeca songs for obvious reasons. For one, it's easily the worst aged Quadeca track. Thank God he cut ties with Dax because man, that guy fell off the deep end. Anyways, War on its own is just pretty boring. Quadeca and Dax say some gibberish about how they're the best in the game or whatever. Quadeca is fine with a somewhat good flow, and Dax is mostly just eh. I personally don't think this is the worst Quadeca song because it's just kinda generic, but wow, this hasn't aged well. It's perfectly fine to dislike this one, I get it. Let's hope in 2026 Quadeca can collaborate with Tom MacDonald. Imagination is the second song on Voice Memos and plays into the Imagination song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Throughout this track, Quadeca says something, I guess. This is a pretty mindless song that can be pretty fun, but on an objective level, this is just flat out bad. The auto-tune and singing here are pretty awful, and despite only being 2 minutes, this gets exhausting really fast. I still find the beat and some rapping to be pretty fun, but yeah, this is a rough one. This is probably going to be my most controversial opinion in this entire ranking, but wow, I do not like Being Yourself very much. Being Yourself is definitely one of the most experimental songs on Scrapyard, but unlike a lot of the other experimental tracks on this mixtape, Being Yourself feels really weird and off in a bad way. I kinda like the idea it goes for, but this entire track feels like botched execution. Quadeca's flow doesn't fit the beat all too well, and the beat itself is so hard to follow and understand, and I can see how that's a good thing. I get enjoying being surprised by where a song goes. The actual places Being Yourself goes always feels underwhelming. The lyrics on Being Yourself are alright, but Quadeca's bizarre flow and weird delivery makes every line lack any emotion. Being Yourself is a bit of a mess. I can see why people enjoy this one. It's very strange and different from a lot of what he's made, but I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. A failed experiment in my opinion. Hallstatt is the second interlude on For Me to You, being named after the location where a lot of the filming for the For Me to You movie took place at. This track is whatever. It's definitely my least favorite out of the interludes, and generally my least favorite on the entire album. This one really has no reason to be here. Actually, why did For Me to You even need 3 interludes? There's no real tonal shifts throughout this project. What was even the point? Yeah, I've never cared for Can't You See all that much. I think the singing here is pretty good and the idea is kinda strong, but the production really falls flat. Some parts are good, like the middle where the bass begins to pick up, but for the most part the production here is just super off. The class of acoustic and bass never really works and ruins a lot of this track. It's probably some of the weakest production in For Me to You. These Days is a track that attempts to wrap up voice memos into a full narrative, and it kinda works. Voice memos never really felt like a narrative because so many tracks were just goofy random nonsense, so this track falls super flat when Quadeca ends up trying to wrap up the album on a serious note. The way the song is written also feels way too direct. On later projects, Quadeca uses characters to relate to himself, but here he's just dryly talking about other songs he previously wrote, which fall pretty flat. Also, the track doesn't even call back to many songs on the album, only The Man on My Left Shoulder and Rowboat, and Rowboat is like a minute long and only works as an interlude. Despite its issues, I still think that overall, this track delivers as a good outro. The first 2 minutes with the Rowboat callout is kinda goofy, but the way he uses The Man on My Left Shoulder follows as a decent payoff. The last 2 minutes of These Days are also quite good. The singing and production gets a lot better, and the way this song ends is a little emotional, I can't lie. Quadeca sings about how he'll forever be remembered, which is pretty bold but kinda true now, and that fact really adds to this song. I still think this is pretty flawed, but the concept works and the execution, despite some issues, isn't half bad. Ego Death is the intro track for Quadeca's first official album, coming out right around his rise in popularity after his diss track towards KSI. Ego Death acts as an intro for Quadeca to reflect on his newfound popularity and how having an ego, or more importantly believing in yourself, is important. I see all this, but Ego Death really doesn't contain that much stuff despite being 4 minutes long. The song is split into 3 parts, a somber first part, then the actual 3 minutes of the song before another somber closure. The somber parts are fine and are cool first signs of Quadeca leaning into a singing voice, but these songs aren't anywhere near as good as his serious future tracks. These sections often come across as whiny and the vocals feel super off. The rest of the song, being the rap parts, are pretty fun. The beat is cool and despite some annoying autotune, it's still a really good time. To be honest, just like a ton of other stuff off voice memos, this track feels weak compared to everything else he's done, which, like, obviously, but it's really ironic hearing Quadeca flex about how far he's come knowing that his later music would destroy this track. This whole song has aged pretty bad, like those Kanye bars have not aged all too well. I still find this to be pretty fun, but a 4-minute song basically saying one thing is pretty pointless. I've never liked Under My Skin, but honestly, on this re-listen of Scrapyard, it got a lot better. By a lot better, I mean it went from being mid to fine. I don't know, I really like the production here and the general concept of the song, but on the other hand, this is just such a simple track and a lot of the themes fall really flat. The idea of Under My Skin is about the safety and finding comfort being near someone, and how that comfort can become dangerous. I like that idea, but the song is so simple, so I don't really care. Still, the production is really good, and that's mostly enough for me. Vegas is another interlude off For Me to You. It's okay. The singing at the start is a little goofy, but the production here balances Vegas out to be a decent Quadeca song. Nothing else to say, it's a decent track. Cassine's Division is the final part to Quadeca's ghost story. Fractions of Infinity, the previous song, is basically the final part of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, and Cassine's Division works more as an epilogue, where we actually get to see Quadeca pass on. I'm sure you can already tell based off the placement of this track, but I don't really care for this one. Don't get me wrong, the idea is fantastic. It's still the main reason why I can say that I Didn't Mean to Haunt You is my favorite narrative on an album, because just like every song from this project, this track and its idea needed to be on the album. But I still find the execution of this song to be really disappointing. Let's start with the pros. Cassine's Division might be one of my favorite titles in any Quadeca song. Cassine's Division is the region between 2 of Saturn's rings that to us is almost invisible. This represents the world Quadeca is in. He's in a region in between that the living can't see. This is genuinely one of the coolest ideas on this entire project, and I really wish it was expanded upon further. The production on Cassine's Division is also great. It's definitely the most creepy sounding song on I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, which is very fitting for this last track. Lastly, I'm not sure how people feel about this, but Quadeca crying in terror when he's about to die is super smart. You might think it's counteractive considering he accepts his fate on Fractions of Infinity, but he's literally about to be erased from existence, and no matter what your mindset is, when you're about to be eradicated from time and space, you're going to freak out. It's a primal instinct, and I think it fits in perfectly. Okay, that was a lot of positives, but the song still has so many issues. I find the long verse throughout the first 3 minutes of the track to be pretty good, but you can barely hear it, which is so disappointing, especially on such a narrative-focused album. I feel like for your last lines, you would really want it to stick out. Also, many people have said this, but those 3 minutes of static are not good. I get what he's going for, and it's a great idea, but 3 whole minutes of static is super annoying and boring to sit through. Narratively, it doesn't even make sense. He's being erased from existence. Wouldn't it make more sense just to directly cut to static instead of making it slowly fade in? It's super drawn out, and you can already see where it's going in the first 10 seconds, so what's the point of sitting through the entire 3 minutes? I always skip this part. I don't get the appeal at all. This song is 8 minutes, and half of it is dedicated to static, which is just so disappointing. Cassie's Division still has fantastic ideas and some really good elements, but it's by far my least favorite on I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Coolor is the intro track for From Me to You. It features no vocals besides a sample, but works as a good start for the album. From Me to You is a significant step up from voice memos, and I think the main point of this intro track is to sell you on that. Coolor has a big step up in production that sounds way more dynamic than voice memos. I still think Sisyphus as the opening could have worked better because that track is just this but longer and with actual rapping and better production, but the song itself is still a strong intro. Real Thing is a kinda corny track about how Mr. Ben is the realest one in the rap industry. Yeah, it's corny, most of voice memos is, but like, he's kinda speaking facts. At the time of this coming out, it obviously fell flat, but most of this track has aged pretty well. He's really stuck to his word. He's stuck to keeping it real, at least after voice memos. Besides it aging pretty well, Real Thing is just really fun. The beat and flow are really solid here. I don't get why people really don't like this one. It's pretty fun, y'all are hating. Rowboat is definitely more of an actual interlude compared to A Dream I Can't Remember, since Rowboat is only a minute long. Let's just get this out of the way. I really do not understand how this song could possibly be hated. Yeah, it's super short, but it's an interlude. What did you expect? Rowboat works as a short little story about Quadeca's attachment to this rowboat and how his life relates to it, while featuring some pretty strong singing and a simple but effective instrumental. This track mostly functions as a transition into the next song on voice memos, Eyes. That's pretty much everything Rowboat is used for, but I think it serves its purpose well. Does it really need to exist on this project? Not really, but Unusual going into Eyes would be pretty jarring, and the song is only a minute long, so it's not wasting anyone's time. It's good, I don't care. This is probably my most contrarian opinion in this video, but there is seriously nothing wrong with this song. It might even make me a little bit sad. I Make It Look Effortless feels like a song that would excel if it was fully expanded upon. This track is extremely similar to Even If I Tried, being another flex song about how good Quadeca is at making music, and while Even If I Tried is a little better due to its long length, I Make It Look Effortless sounds a lot better production-wise. I prefer this beat way more. This track really feels like a song Quadeca made to go back to his older style of music, because this kind of flexing was really common on tracks in the voice memos era, but I feel like in this case it doesn't come across as corny because this music is genuinely good, and I Make It Look Effortless as a track is better than almost 50% of the music on voice memos, and it's only a minute long. Swallowed the Key is the final interlude on From Me to You, and it's definitely the best off the album because it actually has lyrics. The beat and singing on Swallowed the Key is super nice, and there are some great lyrics about locking things away only for it to turn out to be a mistake. I think Quadeca should have made this into a full song. It honestly has a lot of potential. The idea was strong, and the bit of the beat we got was super good. From Me to You does not need 3 interludes, especially when 2 interludes are 2 tracks apart from each other. He should have just turned Swallow the Key into an actual song or cut one of the other interludes. Summit Part 1 is the second to last track on From Me to You. After all the hardships of the album, Quadeca finally reaches the peak of the mountain, proving what he said on Sisyphus to be wrong. This song is very good and quite reflective. There are some goofy bars that take a bit away from the impact, but I mean the impact is still there through some other great lines. I just don't care for the last 2 minutes. They're really long and pretty boring if I'm gonna be honest. It's All a Game is a track about how Quadeca feels like giving up, treating everything in his life like a game. I really don't have a lot for this one. I thought it was great for a while, but as time has gone on, it's grown off me. There's some pretty weak writing here like the Insecure bar, but there is also some strong writing here like the Leaving Me Unread bar. The song itself feels very pessimistic and longing, and I think that really adds into the final section of From Me to You. It kind of functions as that point of exhaustion when exercising where you want to give up. In this case, the point of exhaustion when climbing a mountain. Texas Blue is... I've always had mixed thoughts on Texas Blue, and it's definitely one of my most controversial Quadeca takes. Luckily on this re-listen, I am happy to report that I still just don't really think this one is for me. Texas Blue has some massive highs. The instrumental and general flow of this song is great. It feels like we're quickly moving through different seasons and times, which is a pretty cool idea. I also just generally love the instrumental of this song and how it evolves and changes, making it always feel unique. These 2 fantastic elements are definitely in their peak in the first 2 minutes of this song, being before the 3rd verse. After that, I don't know, this track just kind of peters out for me. I really don't know how to feel about Kevin Abstract here. I think he's overall decent, but I really don't think he should have had this much time on the song. I can see Texas Blue being way better if Quadeca had most of this track and Kevin was just a feature for the chorus. Kevin Abstract's entire role on this song either boils down to a decent verse or mildly annoying, unnecessary ad-libbing, which really didn't have to be here. Plus, there are no verses on this entire song that are just Quadeca, and I'm sorry, but that's just a massive missed opportunity. I mean, Kevin gets a his own uninterrupted bridge, so why can't Quadeca get the same treatment on his own song? It just feels weird. That being said, the chorus is still great. Kevin kills it there. I just think his overall performance is really inconsistent and should have been cut down. I feel like Texas Blue is a good representation for how my thoughts on Scrapyard songs have changed. So many other tracks from this album have gone up or down in my head along with this one. I thought Texas Blue was the weakest on the project for a while. Then it went up a bunch and other songs went down, so now we're here. This really doesn't apply to other Quadeca projects besides I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, but Scrapyard is way more drastic since I've changed my mind on pretty much every song. Anyways, Texas Blue, it's good, just flawed, and it's definitely overrated. I will stand by that take, and yes, there are songs and voice memos that are better than Texas Blue. Fight me. Work is a collaboration between Quadeca and Play That Boy Zay in which they rap about working several things. Work gives Quadeca 3 verses and Play That Boy Zay a chorus that plays between each verse. The chorus is very fun and catchy, but it is a major reason why this is the Quadeca song I get the most embarrassed bopping. I just can't find this chorus ever fitting in with Quadeca's bars. Having a chorus about how much sex you have intercut with Quadeca's depressing work ethic is just so jarring. Also, for the longest time, I thought it was Quadeca doing the chorus, which worsened the issue tenfold. I didn't even realize this song had a feature until writing this video. Quadeca and Play That Boy Zay sound that similar. Anyways, the verses from Quadeca are pretty solid. They mostly cover his work ethic and how busy he always is. This issue leads into him ruining relationships, tying back into the main relationship present throughout From Me to You. It's a pretty good song. Alone Together was the second single Quadeca released for From Me to You. While his third single, Sisyphus, was the real moment Quadeca started getting hype, Alone Together feels like a prototype of that. A lot of Alone Together feels like he's trying to flex his skills. A lot of it doesn't nearly work as well as Sisyphus. It kind of feels like the feedback from this single translated over into Sisyphus getting released. Alone Together feels like one of the most similar songs to something off Voice Memos. It is a serious song, but his writing here really reminds me of some of those not very good bars from Voice Memos. That Lion King line is not good, and no, it's not because Fantano said it, it's just a bad bar, probably the worst on the whole project. I still think Alone Together is pretty good. The topic here is really simple, but the rapping and beat are fun. It's a good, decent song. Is by far one of Quadeca's most streamed songs. It's this very corny, fast-paced rap song, and I honestly still really like it. Yeah, it's corny. Yeah, it's pretty ironic hearing this rich kid rap about how rough his life is. It has its issues, but damn, this track is fun. Like, he's just saying random nonsense, but it kinda adds to the goofy vibe of this track. The goofiness is captured so well here, especially compared to other duds on Voice Memos. There's this very silly energy throughout this track that makes it a really fun time. I get why people don't like this, and I'm sure putting this above other highly rated Quadeca songs will get me crucified, but come on, it's fun. It's really fun. Eyes is one of the most serious songs on Voice Memos, being about a former love interest of Quadeca and his rise in the music industry. When I first heard Voice Memos, I thought this song was kinda mid, and I was preparing myself to say that again, but nah, Eyes is actually pretty good. I'm not sure what I was on. The beat is really strong, and while not hitting as hard as any other future Quadeca songs, in fact there are harder hitting Voice Memo songs, the writing on Eyes is still pretty solid. Eyes is probably one of the songs on Voice Memos to reflect the brewing talent of Quadeca the most. My main issue here is that the last 30 seconds are mixed pretty poorly, but that's about it. It does what it wants to do quite well. Even If I Tried is a pretty low-key hype song, a song mostly following Quadeca hyping himself up and his music. I've always really liked this one. It's pretty simple but goes really hard and fits very well into the track list, following Easier. The beat is what elevates this song. I really like that intense, calculated vibe it gives off. I think what drags Even If I Tried down a bunch is its ending instrumental. It's pretty long, almost being a minute, and it feels like it's dragging out the runtime since it doesn't evolve in a really interesting way. The song itself is still really good up until that point though. The Memories We Lost in Translation is technically the 6th part to Quadeca's ghost story. I say technically because this one is only a minute and a half, functioning as an interlude. This track functions as the halfway point for I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. What we get out of this track sees Quadeca reflect that maybe his mother did get over him and that she didn't grieve enough. It's a slow buildup of anger that is further explored on house settling. That's all this track gives us, but it still functions as a great segue because I can't imagine Born Yesterday going into house settling without something to bring the tone down. The Memories We Lost in Translation serves its job very well. Pretty Privilege is the first actual new song on Scrapyard. If you didn't know, before the full Scrapyard mixtape, it received 3 EPs beforehand, and a little more than half of Scrapyard are these pre-existing songs. Pretty Privilege is the first actual song original to the full Scrapyard mixtape. This track is about Quadeca's insecurities and how he feels worse about himself when he's in a relationship with someone more attractive than him. I've shifted my thoughts on Pretty Privilege a lot, and on this listen, I decided that for the most part, it's really good. I think this has a really cool idea, and there are some cool lyrics diving into this relationship, especially the chorus. feels really realistic. However, the song in general doesn't have any crazy highs. The only standout for me is the ending. I really love the explosion of production towards the end of Pretty Privilege. It's really interesting and the warping noises are super cool. Pretty Privilege for the most part is a solid song with some great production to elevate it a bit. Where'd You Go is still like really fun, I can't lie. It gives me the same vibes as It's a pretty dumb, goofy song that happens to have a really fun beat and really fun lyrics. I still don't really see why this is by far the most disliked track on From Me to You. Songs like Work or Burning Bridges give off the same vibes as this one does, so I don't feel like it ruins the tone of From Me to You any less than those songs do. It's just very similar to a song off Voice Memos, but if it was on Voice Memos, it would probably be one of my favorites. It's a good song. Fight me. You know who you are. Obviously, this was going to be my least favorite on Vanisher. I Dream About Sinking is an interlude track that really marks the change in tone Vanisher takes. In the context of this album, this is where the sailor begins to lose his mind. He dreams about sinking, potentially getting visions of his inevitable death, and it begins his downward spiral throughout the rest of Vanisher. I Dream About Sinking is wordless, and it feels like a relaxing but also terrifying sink to the bottom of the sea. The lack of words does hurt this one, but the production is still great. It kind of feels like sleeping music and is super relaxing to listen to. However, as the song goes, it slowly twists into a nightmare, giving the feeling of panic as you begin to lose your breath. I do like this song, but it is too long for an interlude, and a minute or so could have been cut out. I also can't help but think Natural Causes fills the same role as this song, but I still think this track is really good and doesn't really ruin Vanisher in any way. It's just not super necessary. Summit Part 2 is the outro track for From Me to You. After finishing his climb, Quadeca reflects on his journey as he looks back down. My thoughts on this track have changed a lot. For a while, I found it to be dreadfully boring. It's a near 4-minute long song and only has about 8 lines, mostly focusing on simple production. Now on further listen, I think it's pretty good. It's still definitely slow, but I get the idea more clearly. We're meant to feel like we're just sitting on the summit taking in the view, which is why the song focuses so much on production. Plus the 8 lines we do get are really good. The line recontextualizing From Me to You was cute. This is a good song. It's still not my favorite, but I get it a lot more now. People Pleaser feels like an apology song from Quadeca to the girl From Me to You is about. He very quickly apologizes for several mistakes he's made in the past. The rest of the song mostly functions to explain why Quadeca is like this, focusing on his need to please people. There's also a feature from Goopat Dad 4000 which is pretty good, but kinda adds nothing to the overall song besides the same stuff. I would have much rather preferred if it was just another Quadeca verse expanding on the People Pleaser idea. I think People Pleaser would have been a lot better if there was just more room for Quadeca to expand on the idea of him being a people pleaser. The beat here is still really good, and Goopat Dad 4000 isn't bad at all. In fact, he's probably the same quality as Quadeca, but a second Quadeca verse could have turned this into a great track. Often considered the best on Voice Memos, A Dream I Can't Remember details a character with a drug addiction and how their drug trips are similar to dreams. I have to disagree with the sentiment around this track being the best on Voice Memos, but A Dream I Can't Remember is still a pretty powerful track. It feels like a prototype of what would eventually become Sisyphus, this song about a struggle with a heavy emphasis on loud beat drops. This is a pretty impressive song, especially for Voice Memos. Quadeca jams so much info into 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I honestly would really like to see a longer, more layered version of this at some point, because the concept honestly has a lot of potential. I do really dislike how this track ends with the serious tone being dropped for the next song. It takes away a lot from the impact this could have. Plus the next song it transitions into is Thank You Next, which as I've already said is awful. It's really hard to take the ending seriously when you know what it's transitioning into. Still, for the most part, this is really good. Quadeca's performance, rap, and singing wise are both strong, and the message and its execution are all good. The Man on My Left Shoulder is another serious Voice Memo song, being about Quadeca's morality, the man on his left shoulder representing the devil. The first 2 verses here are great. The singing at the start is beautiful, and the chorus also has super strong writing and works as a good hook. I thought it was kinda corny for a while, but it's really grown on me. Both of these verses just generally have great rapping. The backtracking towards verse 2 doesn't fully work, but it's really good narrative-wise, as we see Quadeca slip into evil, being captured by a more intense beat. My main issue with The Man on My Left Shoulder is the last verse or the last 2 minutes. I really just don't care for these slower verses, they feel really dragged out. Plus the writing here isn't all that special, and the slower delivery here makes it a lot more obvious. Putting lots of emphasis on the impact of the lyrics falls a little flat when the writing here is just pretty good. This is still a really good song. It sucks. Voice Memos gets so much hate when really solid songs like this still exist. Wait, huh? It's this good? Okay, for context, while writing this video, I had to re-listen to all of the Quadeca albums, and Scrapyard is by far my most streamed album. During my first 4 listens of Scrapyard, I never liked What's It to Him. I just never understood the hype. I always found it to be kinda lame and uninteresting. Now keep in mind, so far while writing this video, none of my opinions have changed on a re-listen. Maybe a few songs have gotten a little better or a little worse, but nothing to this level. What's It To Him went from being a song I don't care about at all to a really great track that beats some songs on Scrapyard that I've liked since the first listen. My only real issue with What's It To Him is that it can be a little repetitive. For the most part, whether that be the chorus or big explosion at the end, Quadeca pretty much just says the same few lines and they're pretty simple and straightforward, so there isn't a ton to talk about lyric-wise. However, the actual performance from Quadeca and the production on this song is excellent. Quadeca's singing voice on here hits hard, and that ending is just insane. He's still screaming the same chorus, which can be a little repetitive as I just said, but that change in tone from singing to screaming gives those lyrics a deeper meaning, like he's just telling himself this just to cope. The production also just adds so much to this ending. The whole song builds up to this moment and it's executed so well. What's It To Him is a damn good song. I am officially no longer a hater. Picking Up Hands is the fourth part to Quadeca's ghost story. This track mostly picks up the running idea from Tell Me a Joke and Don't Mind Me. In Picking Up Hands, Quadeca revisits his childhood home, exploring parts of his past. We get more self-hatred and a lot of mourning. Quadeca continues to watch his family and mother move on from his death as he attempts to get their attention. Picking Up Hands is great. It still has all the strong highs of most songs on I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. However, narratively, it's probably the least interesting song on the album for me. There is still a lot of incredible writing like the dog line or the chorus around Quadeca's house changing, but for the most part, this track stands out to me the least on the whole project. It takes most of the same themes that are already on Don't Mind Me and Tell Me a Joke and doesn't really change them to be more interesting. The other I Didn't Mean to Haunt You songs ranked below Picking Up Hands are honestly more memorable for me. Cassine's Division isn't great, but it functions as a strong climax for the album, and the interlude sticks out to me more because of the tracks that follow it and its general role as a tone shifter. Besides narrative issues, the screaming on Picking Up Hands can get grating, and it also has some kinda strange production during certain points. Those are just nitpicks though, because overall Picking Up Hands is still great. It's got great writing, mostly great production, and a great visual video. Seriously, that section of the movie is one of my favorites off the album. I love that dog. Anyways, I'm rambling, it's great. Dust Cutter is the first track for Scrapyard, and it introduces what this mixtape is all about really well. Dust Cutter feels less like a full-on narrative and more of Quadeca experimenting with his production, which is completely different from anything he'd done up until this point. If you do want to look for a narrative in Dust Cutter, this was a cut track from I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, so the narrative could lead into that story a bit, but the track is still pretty loose and feels more like a mood Quadeca is going through. I find the lyrics on Dust Cutter to be fine, but the production on the other hand is really great. This is by far one of the most bizarre, out there songs Quadeca has made. I love the strange, sad, and wonky vibes he gives off. It's one of his most interesting tracks to listen to because nothing he's ever made has sounded anything like this. Still, I find the lyrics on Dust Cutter to be pretty underwhelming, and I get the song isn't focusing on it, but sometimes they feel like they aren't saying anything. I wish I was as big of a fan as this as everyone else. The production is undeniably excellent, but I still don't care about anything Quadeca is really saying on this one. Smiling at the Ground is a great track where Quadeca takes on multiple perspectives around how people view his music. First, he takes the perspective as a crazed fan wanting him to be unhappy so his music is better, and then he takes the perspective of a label company that wants to use him for everything he's worth. I really don't get why people don't care for this one. I think it's pretty great. The use of these perspectives really work as a good story. We see these two impossible forces building up around Quadeca only for this song to end with him saying he'll keep loving this girl despite everything, therefore smiling at the ground, ignoring the things surrounding him. I think Smiling at the Ground really works as an emotional love track, despite the overall song not really being about love. It's got some great writing and a really great flow. Okay, but yeah, the Jaden Smith bar does suck. It ruins a lot of potential emotion from the ending. It might honestly be the only thing holding this back from being a higher A. But besides that, yeah, I still think this track is great. I don't understand how people dislike it. Yeah, Red Dot is my favorite Voice Memo song, Fight Me. Sure, it's a little corny, but this track is too much fun for me to dislike it. Red Dot is mostly about the concept of this red dot and how it can represent a video camera while also representing a gun. That's pretty much the whole idea behind this song, but man, Quadeca really flows with this concept. We're always moving around and it's really entertaining seeing new ways to convey this idea. Red Dot isn't that deep or serious, but the ending does work as a strong, serious closing, ironically coming after Quadeca is shot. Red Dot kinda has everything you need in a Voice Memo song. It's really fun while also featuring a little bit of a deeper layer. I'm probably gonna get killed for putting this above some of his most respected songs, but I don't care, Red Dot is still really fun. Since this is the best song from Voice Memos and the last Voice Memos song I'm gonna talk about, I figured I'd put the album ranking on screen. Here it is. Generally, Voice Memos is by far Quadeca's weakest album, but I still think it has some pretty good standouts. Shades of Us is a much more slow-paced, somber track on Quadeca's past relationships. I don't fully get all the hype for this song, and it doesn't have any crazy moments that really stand out, but the whole track is generally just great. I even like
reminisce, then I cringe so much that I audibly go.
It still kind of works, and the production fits it super well. Speaking of production, it's also super good. It's definitely a little too similar to Sisyphus with the loud beat drops and sad tone, but I mean Sisyphus has amazing production, so I'm not complaining. I honestly don't have much to say about this one. It's pretty much all great. That's Why is my least favorite non-interlude song on Vanisher, but it's still great, let's be real. That's Why is very similar to Waging War, being a balance between self-hatred and self-love. Instead of Waging War though, this song starts off extremely negative before becoming extremely positive. There's no real progression, it directly cuts between these two moods. That's Why shorter negative section is great. The writing is fantastic as always. I really love the line about stoplights, and the production additionally feels super ominous. However, the best part of That's Why is definitely the longer, positive section. The switch of That's Why turning into That's Why It Don't Get Any Better Than This Life is such a great way to put a positive spin on the negative use of That's Why beforehand. Overall, the production in That's Why is the main standout of the track. There's a very clear difference between both sections of the song, and they both feel completely different while still being tied together. However, I'm still not that crazy for the outro instrumental. It's probably my least favorite instrumental outro in Vanisher. It really could have been shorter or more interesting. In general, That's Why is my least favorite non-interlude on Vanisher because it's the song with the least to talk about on this album. It carries over all the fantastic elements of every Vanisher song, having incredible writing and incredible production, but on its own it has the least unique standouts. At the time of writing this video, I'm really struggling on what to put as the weakest non-interlude song on Vanisher. I'm at a tie between At a Time Like This or That's Why, but I think I gotta put At a Time Like This a little higher. At a Time Like This details the sailor's motivations for sailing in the first place. He feels like his older age reflects that his life is already over and he has to continue chasing the horizon. I really love the idea that the sailor is already aware that he's gonna die. I think it gives the journey of Vanisher a whole nother meaning, from a goal to a borderline suicide mission. Is such a killer line. It perfectly showcases where the sailor's mind is at. The beat is maybe what was holding this one back for a while, but that last minute is incredible and is able to contend with the rest of Vanisher. That goes unreasonably hard. I still think this is one of the weaker produced tracks on Vanisher, but that's not saying much because it's still incredible and better than most of Quadeca's music in the past. Easier is a song about a relationship Quadeca is in and how he feels that it's good and bad for him because it's easy. I've shifted my thoughts on Easier a lot. On one hand, it's a really simple track and doesn't contain a lot of info, but on the other hand, Easier executes its ideas and themes really well. The lyrics are simple but super charming. I love how rambly this song feels. Quadeca is often trying to explain these ideas to his partner, but is just consistently backtracking on what his point even was, just to give up and explain that it's, well, hard to explain, okay? I also really like the ending where Quadeca goes on a ramble about his past memories in this relationship. Production throughout Easier is just heavenly. Quadeca trailing off at the end of the song works so well because of the dreamy production accompanying him. It really feels like he's actually trailing off. There isn't much more to say, but I really like Easier. It's a great time. Man, I love Maybe Another Day. I mean, come on, he raps over airplane sound effects. How can you not love it? Maybe Another Day is about Quadeca's endless battle with boredom and procrastination, him not being able to make any progress in his life. The song starts off using the idea of procrastination through Quadeca never being able to make progress in his life. Things like bad sleeping habits and how Quadeca can't get motivation to make music or do anything, constantly telling himself he'll fix it another day. As the song goes, however, we shift the focus from a more literal form of procrastination to the ongoing relationship throughout From Me to You. We see how at this point in the album, Quadeca knows his relationship is over but can't bring himself to end it, telling himself once again that he'll fix it another day. To finally come full circle, Maybe Another Day ends connecting the idea of procrastination to the metaphorical mountain in From Me to You, how Quadeca is metaphorically on a never-ending climb. I really love Maybe Another Day for its writing, good production, and great flow. It's extremely consistent and delivers its ideas and concepts super well. I also really like the chorus and repetition of this track. I do think the outro goes for a little too long, but besides that, this is a really great song and an easy pick for one of the best off From Me to You. Don't Mind Me is the third part to Quadeca's Ghost Story. This track takes a break from the more intense initial two songs, being much more somber. Don't Mind Me introduces Quadeca's mother, the other main character of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. She grieves Quadeca's death and attempts to relive the memory of his time on Earth. Little does she know that he's still with her. The song details Quadeca's emotional and physical state, how he's stuck in a form of purgatory where he can't leave and has to watch the people around him attempt to move on. At this point in the album though, he's less angry and irrational about it, but more somber, upset, seeing his mom not move on from him. The writing as always is great, but the production on this track isn't anywhere near as fantastic as other songs on this album, but it wouldn't really fit the song, so it's okay. I do really love the ending where all of Quadeca's conflicting thoughts combine into an outro. This is a really good sad track that fits it perfectly with the narrative of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Burning Bridges or Long Day has always been one of my favorite songs off From Me to You. It feels like Quadeca's style from Voice Memos at its peak. It's a hard as hell rap song while still keeping the goofy charm Quadeca had in the 2010s and early 2020s. A lot of criticism towards Quadeca is his often out of place goofy lyrics, and that's by far at its most present in From Me to You, and sometimes Voice Memos. From Me to You is a lot more obvious because a lot of the serious songs keep the goofy energy when they really don't need it. Voice Memo songs are just pretty much all goofy. Anyways, the point I'm making here is that Burning Bridges / Long Day takes that goofy charm and uses it to enhance the track. The Ben Shapiro line is still funny, I don't care, it's probably the funniest Quadeca bar. The way he delivers it, like this super tough line, adds so much to the comedy. Plus there's other great moments here like the anti-vax line, or again the way he follows up the Ben Shapiro line with okay, now this is epic. Brilliant writing. IDK also has a great feature in Burning Bridges. I should probably check out more of his stuff. He's great on the 2 features I've heard from him. Anyways, Quadeca has obviously made better rap songs on later projects, but this is by far the peak of the Voice Memos arc of Quadeca. A goofy as hell rap song that lands on every aspect. You Don't Know Me Like That is by far one of Quadeca's most unique and experimental songs. This track, like most of Scrapyard, has a very simple idea. Quadeca tries to figure out how much he is to blame for a relationship ending. What's more interesting about You Don't Know Me Like That is its production and vocals. Quadeca gives himself a hyperpop-esque strain to his voice, making him sound completely different from any other song he's made. Additionally, the production on You Don't Know Me Like That is very different from his normal production, being much more electronic. These unique elements are definitely what makes You Don't Know Me Like That great, but my favorite element of this song is how consistent it is. There isn't a single dull moment on this entire track. You Don't Know Me Like That is just consistently moving while also having a good amount of time to breathe, making the entire song feel like a journey. The chorus is great and evolves really well throughout the song. Both verses have really good performances and writing, and that post-chorus and instrumental outro go on for the perfect amount of time. I really like You Don't Know Me Like That. It's always been one of my favorites off Scrapyard. The last 3 songs on Scrapyard or where the mixtape becomes much more serious, and by far out of these 3 songs, the most serious track is You Tried That Thing Where You're Human, which is a very raw, emotional breakup song about Quadeca's ex. I've shifted my thoughts on You Tried That Thing Where You're Human a lot, just like several other songs on Scrapyard, but I've come to realize it's really great. It's not perfect, and I think it has far more issues than several other Scrapyard songs, but damn, this is still one of Quadeca's most emotional tracks. This is by far one of Quadeca's best performances. He genuinely sounds like he's on the verge of tears the entire song, and it definitely adds to that raw, genuine feeling this track gives off. I also love how somber the overall song is. Other emotional Quadeca songs like Tell Me a Joke or Fantasy World have these big bursts of emotion through their production, but You Try That Thing Where You're Human is constantly mellow and depressing. Instead of having a big explosion in production in its ending, this song just kinda peters out, which really makes it stand out among Quadeca's other emotional songs. Despite the great production towards the end, the overall song definitely could have had better production. I really love the first 3 minutes of this song, but some choices towards the very end of this track have always felt a little poorly executed. Those scratching noises feel way more creepy than sad. Also, the lyrics here aren't anything crazy. Quadeca's incredible performance makes the song hit super hard, but when actually paying attention here, there isn't much to dive into. You Tried That Thing Where You're Human is overall still a great song, but it easily could have been the best on Scrapyard if its production was tweaked a little and its lyrics carried a greater meaning. Candles on Fire continues the winning streak on From Me to You, perfectly continuing off Sisyphus. Candles on Fire is a fast-paced, intense track with several off-the-wall bars. Candles on Fire actually used to be my favorite song off From Me to You, and one of my all-time favorite Quadeca songs in general, but it's definitely grown off me. The bars here are still so good. There's such an improvement over Voice Memos, being way more clever, better delivered, and they call back to Voice Memos in effective ways. I especially like the red dot line. The fantastic beat and great delivery is one of the main reasons why Candles on Fire works so well. It just goes so hard and is so much fun. The main reason why this track grew off me over the last year is mainly because of the slight repetitiveness that gets tiring after a while. I don't think the chorus is nearly good enough enough to be repeated so many times, and it gets repeated 4 times. Candles on Fire still goes extremely hard and is always fun to play. Ruin My Life is the 3rd song on Vanisher, following the sailor beginning his journey to catch the horizon as he reflects on his past. Just like everything else on Vanisher, the production here is stellar. Ruin My Life feels extremely introspective, like we're peering directly into the sailor's mind. However, unlike Waging War, it feels a lot more focused and clear instead of feeling messy and confused. Instead of a literal war like Waging War, the production here feels like we're looking into a memory. The singing from Quadeca in the first 2 verses are amazing, and the lyrics are also quite good. The Quadeca finding comfort in potato skin is a little goofy, I can't lie. The bridge from Harry Wilkinson is also great. He feels less like a narrator here and more of an inner voice inside Quadeca that leads into him getting angry. Speaking of, the angry "What have you done" section is also great. It has a super strong switch up in beat and works as a really great conclusion. I really like Ruin My Life, but it does have some issues that still bother me. For some nitpicks, the first "What have you done" scream is kinda mixed poorly, like you can barely hear it. Also, as good as it is, I would have preferred if Harry Wilkinson wasn't on this track. It does improve Ruin My Life, but it also takes a little bit away from the uniqueness of Casper. I love Casper for how ominous and bizarre Harry feels, and I think him already appearing on this album beforehand takes away a little bit of the punch in Casper. Those 2 are just nitpicks, but I think the real reason why this song isn't higher is that it's just a little too short. I think adding in a 3rd verse would have pushed this up a lot higher. I still really like Ruin My Life though, and it continues to be another extremely strong track on Vanisher. Godstain follows Quadeca finding a bottle in the ocean. Hoping to find an answer to his issues in the bottle, he opens it up to find nothing, the song following his disappointment. I've had a rough relationship with Godstain. I didn't really get the hype at all when I first heard it, but I've really come around to it. The main reason why I disliked Godstain initially was the repetition of it. I thought it didn't really have any substance and was just repeating the same stuff over and over, but now I really get what that repetition is going for. The reuse of the chorus and refrain really lets you think about what they mean. I thought you knew refers to Quadeca thinking that the bottle he found was going to give him an answer to something only to find nothing. That continued disappointment is present throughout the whole song, and the repetition of those lines really add to Godstain, making the song way more catchy while still giving it a narrative purpose. Speaking of catchy, this is easily one of the most re-listenable songs off Vanisher. Quadeca's singing is great, and the production is on par with the rest of the album. I love the rap bit at the end of the song. It fits in perfectly, and the rapping itself is great. This works as a great lead single since it pretty much showcases all of Vanisher while still keeping the big surprises hidden. For me, I really like everything about Godstain, but the reason why I don't outright love it is that it's still one of the most simple, less dense songs on Vanisher. Not to say that the song lacks meaning, I think the story it's trying to tell is all it really needs, but compared to the rest of Vanisher, yeah, this song does lack really powerful lyrics, and most people listening to it probably ignore the deeper undertones. And that's fine. Godstain is a great, fun song that has a deeper undertone to it, which is all you really need. Knots is the 8th part to Quadeca's mental breakdown. This is by far the most different and bizarre track on all of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. This is basically a flex song about Quadeca wanting to kill himself, and it's a very uncomfortable, strange listen. The beat is intense and manic, while the lyrics consist of Quadeca screaming that he can't breathe and that the knots are tying himself together. Obviously, the name Knots also implies how he ended up in the afterlife in the first place. Knots is where the story of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You gets a little fuzzy. Personally, I think Quadeca did kill his family in house settling. When dying, they didn't enter the afterlife with Quadeca, which furthered his anguish. For me, that works better than them not being dead, because it explains why at this point Quadeca isn't even remotely sad. He's just angry and is often trying to ignore how guilty he feels. Knots ends on Quadeca calming down a bit as we transition into Fantasy World. I love Knots a lot because it's one of the most intense songs Quadeca has made, but I still think this one has issues. It's a little too short and doesn't have a real explosion in production, which was really needed for Knots to go from great to excellent. After losing his boat, the sailor continues venturing through the ocean only to run into the Bacchanalian, a moon-eating dragon. This song follows the sailor trying to beat this dragon by playing music, as the Bacchanalian, according to the legend, can be defeated through song. The Great Bacchanalian also holds a deeper meaning, as by playing this character, Quadeca talks about how he feels like his music can defeat the pain he feels in his life. I really love the doomsday-esque vibe of this song. It feels like the sailor is going against an impossible force. Danny Brown also features on this song to play the Bacchanalian, and he's great. A little goofy, but great. Okay, but actually, I struggle to take this song seriously when imagining this giant dragon beast rapping to Quadeca and having a Danny Brown voice. That's a really funny thought. Besides that though, Danny still brings a great feature and raps so well off Quadeca's production. There really should be more of him on this song. Quadeca is also quite strong here. He sounds so deadpan, and he goes full in on this being a rap song, which is really fun. I do think there are a few bars here that really don't land, like It's like he couldn't help throwing in something dumb because that literally has nothing to do with the entire song. And honestly, I Need a Million Bad Bitches works at this point. I think it's still really funny and really goofy, but I mean it does fit into the sailor not really caring anymore. He's not trying to talk about his situation, he's just done. The line is still really funny though and takes away any serious tone this song has going for it. Besides those issues, the Great Bacchanalian is so much fun. It has great replayability value, and it's still a great song off Vanisher. Fractions of Infinity is the 10th part to Quadeca's ghost story. After Fantasy Road, Quadeca begins to realize that what he's holding on to in this purgatory is unnecessary. He begins to adopt a very similar mindset to his mindset when he took his life, but in a much more positive light. Quadeca realizes that his life in this void is meaningless and that he needs to re-enter the next world. I still think that Quadeca's mother is dead at this point, and this song is Quadeca accepting the sins that he's committed as he enters the next realm. Some of you might be wondering why this is relatively low, so I'll give out some of my issues first. The first half of Fractions of Infinity are pretty weak in my opinion. It's mostly build-up that doesn't really work, and it feels pretty stretched out. The verses have pretty good writing, but I honestly find the chorus to be kind of boring. That being said, the third verse and onward is where Fractions of Infinity excel. The actual payoff of the build-up in production is great, with a much harder bass that fits Quadeca's rapping more passionately. It feels super uplifting. You can really feel Quadeca here accepting his situation with open arms. And the best part of this album is easily that last minute. The production here feels heavenly, and the line, "Those words don't do you justice," is easily one of the most memorable, iconic lines off this album. It's such a perfect line that encapsulates Quadeca's love for his mother. Plus, it's being beautifully sung by the Sunday choir, which just gives it all the more impact. Just like Danny Brown, as we'll get into later, this is a perfect feature. Quadeca's singing here would still be great, but the Sunday choir's vocals just bring this up to being excellent. I don't love this one nearly as much as other people seem to, but it's still a really great track that fits in perfectly with the rest of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Dancing Without Moving is absolutely one of the most upbeat tracks Quadeca has made. The sailor at this point in his journey hits a massive high, realizing how far he's come. Not knowing how to celebrate, he chooses to dance. Dancing Without Moving tackles how nature itself moves in a rhythmic dance, and how the moon dances with us if we follow it even if it isn't moving. Hence the title of this song, Dancing Without Moving. The production on this track really adds to that narrative. The backing vocals and general instruments add so many layers to Dancing Without Moving that make it sound incredible. To add to that uplifting feeling, Quadeca has some great writing here. In these bursts of positivity, the sailor raps about some of the darkest periods in his life, like his year-long breakup, but through a more reflective lens. It feels like he's letting go of his past and now reflecting on it. As that positivity builds though, you can feel an unsettling presence creeping up in the song. The sailor is often not paying attention to his surroundings, and by the end of Dancing Without Moving, it feels like he stumbles in a way, almost crashing due to him getting so distracted. Dancing Without Moving ends on an ominous speech that states that the sailor thinks he's on the horizon but really isn't, showing how far the sailor has to go still. I really love Dancing Without Moving. It's got a great idea and fits in super well as the halfway point on Vanisher. Guide Dog is a great little love song about Quadeca comparing his love for a girl to a guide dog's love for their owner. This is a really simple song, but it might just be the best written track on Scrapyard. I think Quadeca uses this idea to its fullest with a strong idea executed greatly with masterful lines.
If I could, I would trade you my eyes, 'cause you should see you with the clearness of my
Is such a good line. Like, damn, that's honestly kind of beautiful. I would legit cry if someone said that to me. Plus, the instruments here just, those acoustic instruments give me chills. They are so good. I kind of just feel things when I hear this song. I've already said this a ton throughout every Scrapyard section in this video, but my thoughts on Guide Dog have also changed a lot. It took me a while to get around on this one because of its short length, but I think Guide Dog being so short is why it's so good. It's a simple idea for a track, and it really didn't need to go any further. But I got a great instrumental, had some great lyrics, and didn't feel the need to add any more. And I think he didn't need to, because this works really well. Natural Causes follows the sailor's downward spiral as he begins to further lose his mind on his voyage for the horizon. Natural Causes contains a lot of talk about death, more specifically the death of all of them, as Quadeca refers to them. It could be implied the sailor is talking about the ones who have died in the ocean before him, or the death of a crew on the ship with him. Neither of these interpretations really work for me, since Vanisher places such a strong focus on an individual journey, and the sailor doesn't feel like the kind of character to admire other voyagers. The best explanation for Natural Causes is present in the music video. In the Natural Causes music video, there is a heavy emphasis placed on the radio, implying the people the sailor thinks are dying are the voices he hears on the radio. He believes these voices are coming from the dead, causing him to spiral even further. I really love the haunting atmosphere of Natural Causes. The super creepy instruments are such a great touch. It feels like the kind of production that could fit in with I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. I always thought Natural Causes was a lot more layered than it actually was, since the song only uses choruses. What makes Natural Causes feel so layered is definitely its production. Natural Causes is constantly switching up in production, which makes it feel so constantly engaging. I generally think this is one of the coolest beats on Vanisher. It feels so unique and different from the rest of the album. There's also some motifs here. There are some very similar instruments to Waging War in this track, which makes Natural Causes feel more like inner thoughts than actual reality, adding to that sense of a mental spiral. The way this song writes about natural causes is also incredible. The sailor thinks all the deaths are from natural causes, or the ocean. It works so well because the previous song, I Dream About Sinking, is all about death from the ocean, showing the sailor's fears are spiraling as he sees others dying from the same thing he just dreamed about. Quadeca's singing is also so good here. You can feel a shake in his voice like he's terrified, and it really works to continue to add that paranoid feeling. The ad-libbing throughout Natural Causes also continues to evolve. As Natural Causes goes, the ad-libbing begins to glitch out, and by the end of the song it feels like it's coming from a radio. I also love the evolution of Quadeca being afraid of the voices from the radio to it feeling like he's trying to talk to the radio, like he's trying to talk to someone. You can really feel his loneliness here. I just really love Natural Causes. In my opinion, it's one of the most underrated songs on Vanisher. It's incredible on its own and perfectly transitions into Thunder. Waging War serves as the opening for Vanisher. While No Questions Asked establishes the sailor's motivation for chasing the horizon, Waging War is where Vanisher actually begins. Waging War follows the sailor battling with himself over whether he should set sail or not, basically grappling with practically killing himself to achieve an impossible goal or staying safely at home. Eventually, he decides that he's not afraid to die and would rather go out dying doing what he loves. Waging War is a packed track with tons of lyrics, changing tones, and several constantly twisting beats to present the mental war happening in the sailor's mind. If you couldn't tell, I really love the production here, but it's pretty hard to talk about since it's constantly changing. My favorite section and my favorite piece of production on Waging War is probably its opening. The chorus loops a couple times, and each loop the production is given another melody or layer to build it up. It starts off super creepy and unsettling with lots of jingling before exploding into a more intense bass to drown out the creepiness from the start of the track. The other two beats here are also great, but are pretty much the same idea, minus the creepy feeling. Waging War is basically split among these three beats: the opening, the second singing outro, and a third ending rap monologue where Quadeca seems to rap against himself. As I just went over, my favorite section on Waging War is easily the first part. Quadeca has some great lyrics about who he is, and Olka has a great feature as an inner voice for Quadeca. The mix of rapping and singing on Waging War is also stellar. It really adds to that confused war this song is trying to communicate. Quadeca at points sounds emotional while also sounding angry, and he swaps back and forth between these two feelings using rapping or singing, which is a great touch. Part 2 and Part 3 of Waging War are also really strong, but just don't have nearly as much substance as Part 1. The transition between both parts feel really confusing. When I first heard the album movie, I really couldn't tell if the song was over or not, and I had to keep checking. I still really like both parts though, so yeah, Waging War is great. It's a great continuation off No Questions Asked, and keeps the ball rolling with Quadeca's best album to date. Way Too Many Friends was actually the first Quadeca song I ever heard, and it's the main reason why I listened to Scrapyard and got into Quadeca in the first place. Way Too Many Friends is pretty simple. Quadeca talks about his social insecurities while ironically discussing how many friends he has, saying that he wants less friends despite having so little already. This is a pretty simple track just like most of Scrapyard, but it's executed extremely well and is by far one of his most catchy songs. This is probably my second favorite beat off Scrapyard. It's so simple but really fits into the tone of the track, feeling very singular with limited instruments. The lyrics on Way Too Many Friends are also pretty stellar. It's by far some of his best writing on this mixtape. I love the line, because in the context of the song, Quadeca is saying he's delaying events so he can stay alone, but it also reads as him sarcastically saying he's so busy all the time, doing nothing. The chorus is also so good. It's really catchy and filled with so much sarcasm. I just love how petty this entire track feels. This used to be one of my favorites off Scrapyard, but due to how short and simple it is, it's lowered in my mind a bit, but it's still definitely at least top 3 or 4 for me. Monday is the second single released for Vanisher Horizon Scraper, detailing Quadeca's love for something or someone throughout his life. While I didn't love God's Stain on first listen, Monday instantly clicked with me when I first heard it. I think it's a lot more simple than the other singles while also being extremely listenable. This and Foregone were the main reasons why I was excited for Vanisher in the first place. I really love the writing and structure of Monday. Quadeca details his life through separate seasons. While not seeming super interesting, the way he describes each season is what really adds to this song. It's that time of the year where I start getting old refers to fall since Quadeca's birthday is in October, or it's that time of the year where there's smoke in my breath referring to winter, and it's that time of the year where I put on my hat referring to summer. Not sure why this song skips over spring, but this is still a really cool way to structure a song. Quadeca also drops some really great lines with some really great analogies. For me, the line that sticks out to me the most is, "It's so easy to try, but it's harder to fall." I do think Monday lacks a bit of lyrics, there's not a ton of lines, and also there's no Garfield references. However, the track on its own is great, and Quadeca's delivery and singing is fantastic on this track. Oh, and the production on Monday is really good. I find it kind of hard to describe why I like it, but it feels really simple and down to earth, while still feeling very beautiful and Journey-esque. Monday is really great. It's maybe a little weaker compared to the grandness of other songs on Vanisher, but it's still great. House Settling is the 7th part to Quadeca's revenge story. The first half of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You is sad and depressing, following this ghost reflecting about their past mistakes. However, House Settling is where I Didn't Mean to Haunt You flips and becomes way darker. After realizing his mother has truly moved on from him, Quadeca begins to get much more desperate. As we go through the first half of the song, Quadeca creaks through the house trying to let his family know that he's still around. While on previous tracks, Quadeca's family felt like he was somehow still with him, by this point, from Quadeca's point of view, he feels like they've forgotten about him. His family believes that the house is just settling, a natural event causing noise in houses. Since this doesn't work, Quadeca begins to mentally sink deeper and deeper, and by the second chorus, he eventually decides to poison his family with carbon monoxide, either in an attempt to get revenge on them or to bring them down to the afterlife with him. The first half of House Settling is great. Narratively, this is still one of my favorite Quadeca tracks. The slow progression into insanity is handled really well. There's a clear gap in time after Born Yesterday, and the interlude before House Settling serves as a good explanation to show why Quadeca is doing this. Anyways, what comes in the second part of House Settling is easily my favorite part of the entire song. Danny Brown shows up to rap from the perspective of carbon monoxide in the most insane manic flow on a perfectly bizarre beat made for Danny. This is such a goofy idea, amplified if you haven't heard Danny's rap voice, but somehow this works. This is easily still one of the best Quadeca features. It fits perfectly into the album and suits Danny so well. Quadeca rapping for Danny's verse could have worked, but Danny brings a new kind of energy that shows the total switch in tone this album goes into past this point. House Settling is great. We all know it's great. In fact, I think it's a little overhyped compared to everything else he's made. Sorry for Dying is the first song on Quadeca's first critically acclaimed album. This track opens the story for I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, which I'll cover throughout each segment of this video because I Didn't Mean to Haunt You is still one of my favorite narratives ever told in an album. It will be out of order, but what can you do? I still want to do it. Sorry for Dying takes place right after Quadeca kills himself, waking up in a strange wasteland. The lyrics are confused and reflective, Quadeca trying to figure out if what he's experiencing is the afterlife or not. We then get a beautiful chorus of Quadeca pleading to come back once realizing he's now dead. The production after this explodes into a flourish of bizarre humming and an intense bass. Without words, Quadeca is able to effortlessly capture the afterlife and the feeling that his character is going through. It feels off and creepy at its start, but once Quadeca begins singing, the instrumental quickly turns somber. It's a perfect way to reflect Quadeca entering this creepy void that I Didn't Mean to Haunt You takes place in. It's a seriously incredible opening. This just perfectly captures the vibe of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Give it up for A La Carte, my most streamed Quadeca song. In my opinion, A La Carte is easily Quadeca's most replayable song. It's a super simple track, but my god, it is so catchy and enjoyable. It might just be his most catchy song. The beat is fantastic. Just like the rest of Scrapyard, it's very simple, but it feels so majestic and captivating. Like, how does he do it? It's super simple, but he just adds something to it that makes it go insane. Quadeca's performance on this track is his usual quality. He has a great chorus and some really strong verses. If it was just Quadeca, then I think this track would still be great, but what really elevates this song is Breakin's feature. I don't know how the general community feels about this, but Breakin's on A La Carte is the best feature on any Quadeca song, and it's not even close. Breakin's made one of my favorite albums of all time and has some of, if not the best singing I've ever heard from an artist, and he kills it here. The lyrics are still pretty simple, but his vocal range is just breathtaking. The highs and lows of his vocal range are something I should be used to at this point, but it just never gets old. The mood of A La Carte fits both of these artists perfectly, and it's crazy because both of them make so much intense rap while also being able to make super depressing music. It's genuinely such a perfect duo. I desperately need to see another collaboration between Quadeca and Breakins. They've got such great chemistry, and due to both of their insane ranges, they could practically make any song together work. A La Carte is so damn good, it's just such a mood. You can put this on at any time. Guess Who is my favorite off Scrapyard. Usually I go through concepts and writing first, but we're not doing that this time. Let's skip straight to production because holy, this song sounds incredible. This is by far the most experimental beat on Scrapyard, and it's frankly not close. I feel like this song shouldn't work because the beat borderline sounds like multiple sirens going off, but the intense bass and off-the-walls rapping from Quadeca makes this production excel. I also love how the production never really stops. Even the most intense Quadeca songs slow down after a while, but now this one just cuts off. It's non-stop controlled chaos, and that's why I love it so much. Guess Who is another Flex song on Scrapyard, but this one is definitely his most original and unique Flex song because of the beat and Quadeca's killer bars.
You dropping tapes like I couldn't figure out a crime scene. My career fucking weird, can't even define me.
Or,
Cause I couldn't tell a masterpiece from a tight beat. Bunch of glorified interns in the side seats. Bitch, great.
generally, the second verse for Guess Who is absolutely stellar. It's non-stop, has incredible flow, and the bars are insane as I just listed. I still think it lacks the narrative that carries so many Quadeca songs, but I mean, this is about as good as you can get from a non-narrative rap track. Experimental, off the walls, and incredibly intense. And that's every Scrapyard song, so here's my track rating for the album. It's such a great album, but it might be one of his weakest for me due to its lack of narrative. I still really appreciate it for getting me into Quadeca in the first place. Tell Me a Joke is the second part to Quadeca's ghost story. Tell Me a Joke continues the themes of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Quadeca, now realizing he's a ghost, attempts to get the attention of the people around him. This is showcased through the metaphor of the knock knock who's there joke. Quadeca knocks on others' homes to get their attention, but in the end he discovers the punchline to the joke was him. He was the joke. Throughout the song, we also use the idea of jokes to explore the character's backstory, how before the album began he felt like a joke leading to him taking his own life. The narrative framing of this metaphor is so well done, using this simple idea to showcase the ghost's current situation and his past. It's so expertly done and easily some of Quadeca's best writing. The dry laughing in the chorus, the constant use of the door, the obvious fantastic production, everything here works flawlessly. The entire song ends on Quadeca breaking down, captured by a great explosion of production. A lot of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You's production is like this, and it never gets all that repetitive due to how different and unique each drop feels. Fantastic, fantastic. No Questions Asked is easily Quadeca's most underrated song. No Questions Asked has several different interpretations, so I'll just give my interpretation of the song and we can discuss other meanings later. For me, No Questions Asked seems to be us directly going inside the sailor's mind, us getting to see his conflicted thoughts before the album begins, and how to him his life is extremely similar to a voyage across the sea. This song captures the feeling this entire album gives off in only 5 minutes. The production on No Questions Asked is absolutely incredible. My jaw dropped when I heard the first few notes when hearing this album for the first time. They are so unique and felt nothing like any of the other singles we had gotten for Vanisher beforehand. I love how uneasy this song feels. This entire track feels like a full voyage, and just like the album, it feels like the song itself is struggling to stay afloat, hitting massive highs in productions and incredibly strong lows of uneasy instruments. I get it might not be some people's thing, but I love how long the song goes on before the lyrics even begin. Production here is so heavenly that you get sucked into thinking this track is just an instrumental, just for those lyrics to pop up and completely throw you off. And man, if you thought No Questions Asked was good without lyrics, then imagine how good it is with lyrics. My favorite part of this whole song is where the song begins to slow down, just for it to clap back with even more powerful production. And the use of layering vocals is just so damn beautiful. And that ending, the part where the production vanishes just for the vocals to only be there, feels surreal. You've grown so used to the production that once it fades, it feels like the voyage you've been on has ended. Besides the spellbinding production, the lyrics here, while short, are still incredible. I'll Be There When No One Is holds so much meaning and really sticks with you throughout the entire album. For me, I think this line is referring to the horizon, since this line pretty much comes back in Foregone. The line, I'll be there when no one is, captures the entire motivation for our character, showing us why he wants the horizon, because it'll be there when no one is. The other lyric, being the title for this song, No Questions Asked, is also incredible, even if it doesn't have as crucial of a meaning as I'll be there when no one is. While so much of this track relies on more singing vocals, the rapish delivery of this line hints that this album will be a lot more rap, and the ad-libbing rapping honestly fits in perfectly with the rest of this song. For a narrative meaning, you can read this as a continuation of I'll be there when no one is, to form the full phrase I'll be there when no one is, no matter what, or I'll be there when no one is, no questions asked. For separate meanings of the song, I get where people are coming from when they say the song is the last track for the album, but I think it fits as a perfect introduction for the character we follow throughout Vanisher, serving to establish his main motivation. And I don't fully get the point of this being the last song in the project, because Casper already wraps up Vanisher so well. Seriously, how does Quadeca make something this good with just 2 lines? This is some of his best production ever, and the whole thing feels masterfully put together. If this is your least favorite on the album, I just can't see it. It perfectly opens the album and has easily some of Quadeca's best production. No Questions Asked is one of my favorites off Vanisher, and Quadeca's most underrated song.
when I'm back on it.
This was the first real track that proved Quadeca had some serious talent. It was the moment everyone's ears perked up and started realizing that this kid might actually have something. Sisyphus genuinely feels like a track Quadeca put his all into. It feels like a track where he's trying to prove he's talented and worthy. It's got some of his best production, best writing, and generally one of his best music videos all in full force. It's the only real time on For Me to You where everything comes together to make something really special. Sisyphus is about the main concept of For Me to You, the mountain Quadeca is climbing and its metaphorical meaning. The track details Quadeca's issues with love and life, and how he feels like Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a mountain, and how no matter what he does, he always ends up back at the bottom. Several other tracks on For Me to You don't care to explain the narrative because Sisyphus basically explains the entirety of the album. It really shows that Quadeca knew this was his best work to date because pretty much everything else on this project works off Sisyphus. Some of my favorite writing during Sisyphus is the chorus that ends with "You got mountains of your own." So much of Voice Memos feels like it's all about Quadeca, but this song is a lot more direct and towards others and how he's aware he's not the only one going through issues. As I've said, this entire track feels like he's proving himself. A big complaint with Voice Memos was that it could feel a little self-driven and egotistical, like Quadeca wasn't really going through hardship, but this line acknowledging others works so well to counteract that point. Another favorite line of mine is, "I guess the butterflies in my stomach be fucking retiring," because it's really cool and I got the top review on Letterboxd for it, so yeah. On the production side of things, wow, this track is still some of his best production to date. The slower parts sound somber and sad while also having some incredible, unexpected, powerful beat drops. Sisyphus is just as amazing as everyone says, still one of the best Quadeca songs, and the best off For Me to You. Here's the album ranking from For Me to You. This was previously my favorite Quadeca album, though it has grown off me a bunch. I still think it competes and on some days feels a little bit better than Scrapyard for me. The last stretch of Vanisher is kinda crazy. Like past I Dream About Sinking, this album just consistently hits. Anyways, Foregone, easily one of the best songs in Vanisher and objectively one of Quadeca's best songs to date. Foregone is a far more introspective song compared to the rest of the more literal narrative in Vanisher. We follow the sailor as he sings about longing to be a child again and his love for his partner, or the horizon depending on how you read into this. At this point in Vanisher, the sailor has crashed his boat and failed on his journey. Foregone feeling like a defeated monologue on why he did this to himself. Lyric-wise, Foregone packs a real punch. "You are the one that remains" is one of my favorite lines on Vanisher. It just captures the entire character of the sailor so well. The line being about how despite everything, the horizon still shows itself every day, and how that desire to exist forever like the horizon can push someone to such extremes. I think a lot of people think Foregone is a tragic love song about the sailor's partner, but for me, I think it has to be a love song directed towards the horizon. Foregone, you're the conclusion of everyone, has to be about the horizon. Everyone eventually dies, and one of the last things they'll ever see is the sun. I'm open to both ideas being present in the song, but Vanisher is a very lonely solo album, and I think romantic love isn't really a focus. I mean, Monday exists, but I think that can also be about the horizon too. My favorite point in all of Foregone is at the end of Act 2, where Quadeca says, "All I can do is remain," before being cut off. It's such a simple meaning, but so effective at communicating that the sailor can't remain because he's mortal. And this line leading into Casper is such an effective transition. On the production side, this song is also stellar. I love how Foregone opens on such a grand piece in a similar sense to other songs throughout Vanisher, but right when you think it's going to continue, the song quickly cuts off and turns into a piano ballad. The simple but effective piano and strings used throughout Foregone is absolutely stellar. Every note here feels like a punch. It's genuinely incredible. I think the first two acts of Foregone are near perfect. The only thing really holding this song back for me is the ending outro. I mean, I still really like it, but it's definitely the weakest point in the entire song. It's a little too long for me. 3 minutes is a bit much. The vocals and sampling also feel pretty off, and taking away the more simple production in Foregone only to replace it with more grand instruments makes the overall track feel a little more simple and less unique. I think a more stripped down, shorter outro would have worked a lot better. Despite that, Foregone is still excellent and an easy top 3 on Vanisher. It's kinda crazy this was released as a single. Born Yesterday is the 5th part of Quadeca's Ghost Story. It is also often considered to be the best Quadeca song, and that's probably true. It's definitely not my favorite, cause like look where it ended up, but it might just be the best on an objective level. This is easily Quadeca's most emotional song. There are songs on this ranking above Born Yesterday that make me more choked up, but Born Yesterday in its entirety is the most emotional. Born Yesterday ends the arc of the first 5 songs of I Didn't Even Haunt You. Quadeca continues to haunt his mother, but as time has passed, she seems to be getting over Quadeca's passing. However, Quadeca can tell she's faking it. He states that he wasn't born yesterday or that he's not stupid. He can tell she's lying. As Quadeca repeats this statement, other voices begin to chime in. These are samples from the Beatles song For No One. These voices represent Quadeca's intrusive thoughts. These thoughts tell Quadeca that his mother no longer needs him despite him needing her. We never find out if his mom truly moved on at this point of the album. Maybe Quadeca is wrong here, but he insists that she's not doing well, reciting memories he's had with her and how his umbilical cord is still attached to her, meaning that he's still connected to her. The buildup of emotions, his mother moving on, his inability to do anything to comfort her, it all culminates in this simultaneously angry and beautiful explosion of production, where he continues to scream that he's not dumb and that he's still conscious. This moment is the best on the entire song. The production on the last line is just so impactful. Quadeca screaming, the production here feels like a more beefy version of the Sisyphus beat drop, and like it's Sisyphus. After this peak of anger, the song begins to slow down, us going back to the more quiet production on previous songs like Picking Up Hands or Don't Mind Me. The song ends on a poem dedicated to Quadeca's mother. It's an extremely heartful letter about how much Quadeca loves his mom and how he hopes he made her proud. The song fades out as the voices of uncertainty continue to ring, but more quiet now. I mean, what more can I say? Born Yesterday is simply incredible. It's a beautiful story told through incredible production and writing that perfectly wraps up the first arc of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Okay, I get this placement is a little unreasonable, but it's my list, I do what I want. I feel like putting Thunder this high is a little counterintuitive because of all the other beautiful tracks I've placed below it, but to put it plainly, this song just has so much aura, oh my god. Sometimes aura overpowers beauty, I'm sorry. Thunder follows the full mental breakdown of the sailor as he completely loses his mind in a thunderstorm. Because of the storm, the sailor crashes, but due to his broken mental state, he still thinks he's sailing, gloating about how great he is despite losing everything. I think the most impressive thing about Thunder is that it can keep constantly hitting you for 4 minutes. This track just has such a firm grip on me. I struggle to pause it the moment it starts playing. Another reason why Thunder sticks out to me so much is that nothing on Vanisher sounds remotely like it. Thunder is just so insane and unique in Quadeca's track list. Now you may be wondering, why is Thunder so much better than Knots? Don't they serve the same purpose? Well, while I do really like Knots, I think Thunder is a mastered version of it while containing a completely different meaning. Knots is very self-hating, slow, and honestly kind of evil. Thunder, on the other hand, is a completely insane and prideful track with Quadeca not only gloating about being the best, but being a literal god that can control the way the weather moves. The chorus of Thunder consists of, I love to steal your thunder and bow down to me. I love to steal your thunder is the sailor literally challenging the ocean to fight back at him. He thinks he's the thunder god. He steals the thunder from Zeus and strikes the ocean back, commanding it to bow down to him. That's why Thunder is better than Knots. It's completely insane and is just egotistical to an extreme length. Again though, Thunder is 4 minutes and the song is basically one idea with a small amount of repeating lyrics. So how does it hit so hard? It's the production. The production on Thunder gives the impression of hard rain with an intense bass being used to represent thunder striking. The way Quadeca screams and sings sounds like he's trying to overpower the storm by screaming louder than it, which makes for an incredibly gripping performance. The production itself is really intense but is also constantly evolving. I love the random detour for the bridge in the middle of Thunder where the beat gets all wonky and Quadeca with a low ominous voice talks about his power, before everything just claps back with an even more intense beat using all the previous ad-libs used before in the song, like Quadeca's glitched out screaming. Oh my god, this track is just so good. Just talking about it makes me want to listen to it again. Okay, I listened to it again, it deserves to be this high. Thunder is just the rawest, coolest stuff you'll ever listen to, and in the context of Vanisher, this track doubles as a complete collapse of the sailor. It doubles as being one of the coolest songs ever while also being this tragic, inevitable downfall of our protagonist. Casper is the best song on Vanisher. I get that's not a real shocker, but to me this feels like the objective best song Quadeca has ever made. Casper follows the death of the sailor. Despite failing on his quest for the horizon, he runs back into the ocean in one last desperate attempt, drowning. Aruna, or Harry Wilkinson, as this godlike narrator recaps Vanisher and insults the sailor for his choices. We don't get much Quadeca here, but what we do get from him is an incredible opening. He gives a great performance. You can feel his weak, desperate voice before running into the ocean. I'm actually not sure if it's intentional, but the opening feels like a I Didn't Mean to Haunt You song, which really fits into the doomed narrative of this track. After that, it's just Harry Wilkerson, who is one of the best features on any Quadeca song. His first verse is mean and intense. He criticizes and berates the sailor, saying he's not a god, he's just a child in a man's body. As the song and monologue continue, you can literally feel the horizon creeping up on Quadeca as he continues running. And then that second beat kicks into gear, and this is where Casper becomes excellent. You know how much I love No Questions Asked, so to hear it twist into this evil, distorted version is awesome. And Harry Wilkerson just keeps riding on this beat. He is so cold and so evil here, it's insane. Verse 1 of Casper acts more of a direct insult, but verse 2 becomes a full recap of the album, making it feel like the sailor's life is flashing before his eyes. The writing on this second verse is probably Quadeca's best writing to date. It so expertly captures every song on Vanisher.
He cracks a boat. It's the only friend he knows. Years of no expression left him bitter, comatose.
Describes the story of Godstained in such a unique way that I could never really express. The ending for Casper is like the best moment on any Quadeca song ever. Nothing Quadeca has made gets close to seeing the ending for Casper and the ending for this movie. The color warping is still one of the coolest uses of filmmaking to enhance the impact of this outro. The impact of the bass, the absolute powerhouse of it, is so effective that they can have it repeat for 2 minutes and still make it hit every time. And then Casper just keeps going. Once we start sinking into the water, you can feel the drowning and intensity from it. You can feel the sailor's conscious fade, and the intense bass starts to fade away into the ocean as he slowly drowns. And that's Casper. I think the choice of resurfacing at the end is a little strange. Like, the sailor is definitely dead, so I don't really get this choice. I think it's a weird point narrative-wise, and I would have preferred if Casper just faded into nothing in its ending. It feels like Quadeca is trying to avoid his mistakes on Cassine's Division in a strange way, but like everything else about Casper is perfect. And that's every Vanisher song. Here's the ranking. This is my favorite Quadeca album. It's the main reason why I wanted to make this video. It just can't seem to miss. I think Casper and the #1 spot are pretty much tied, but from the moment I started making this video, I knew it had to be #1, and I'm sticking to my guns. Fantasy Road is the 9th or first part to Quadeca's ghost story. This song acts as a flashback that Ben experiences after Knots, this leading as his motivation to move on during the rest of the album. Fantasy Road follows Ben before the events of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, explaining what led to him taking his own life. Throughout I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, Ben's death is hinted at a few times, but this track explains his full mindset before his death. He expresses that life has become meaningless and that by taking his own life, he would enter a fantasy world, a world where he doesn't exist. There aren't many lyrics here for a 7-minute song, but every line here perfectly fits into the narrative. For the first half of Fantasy Road, we follow Ben's mindset, which is so effortlessly showcased through his voice and the simple writing. You can easily visualize his repetitive life, him waking up and walking every day with nothing changing. Eventually, we get a brilliant callback to For Me to You, where he expresses driving and climbing a mountain only to realize the real place he wanted to go was this fantasy road he'd thought of. It's a perfect callback to For Me to You because it literally ties these albums together, contextualizing that after he reaches the summit in that album, he realized the entire thing was pointless. By the second half of Fantasy Road, he begins deluding himself, imagining how great the world will be once he's gone, using his happy memories in his life to guide himself into taking it all away, and eventually he does. I gotta jump into the production of Fantasy Road because it is unbelievable and is needed to explain how impactful the finale of this song is. So the main melody of this song is a song that Ben used to play as a child, which is so personal but fits into the track perfectly. The melody builds and builds as the song goes, perfectly fitting Quadeca slowly growing up before taking everything he's built away. I Didn't Mean to Haunt You and most modern Quadeca projects have a lot of beats that drop into giant explosions, but nothing comes close to the explosion of production in Fantasy Road. For me, narratively, this is where Quadeca begins to lose air from the rope, and while he's dying, he continues to believe that what he's doing is good. He goes out happy and alive, and the production for that feeling fits perfectly. It's beautiful, sad, and terrifying all at the same time. It's incredible, and after the lyrics are done wrapping up, the production perfectly reflects Quadeca entering the afterlife. For a while, my main issue with Fantasy Road was the last 2 minutes of instrumental. I thought it was a little too slow, but wow, I get it now. You can literally feel Ben waking up in the afterlife, only to find out that he hasn't gone anywhere, and in no words, you can feel that regret. You can feel him realizing he made a mistake. It's brilliant. I said Born Yesterday was the Quadeca song that was overall the most emotional, but this track has almost made me cry several times. The weight of the production, the amount of happiness put into this despite how dark the song is, the fact that everything Quadeca says here ends up being wrong in the end, with the context of the rest of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, I can't help but get choked up. Yeah, this is still my favorite Quadeca song. Some Vanisher tracks get close, and I still think Vanisher is the best Quadeca album, but nothing can touch Fantasy Road, man. Nothing. Here's my track ranking for I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Not the best album that Quadeca has made, but really, really close, and also has one of my favorite narratives in any album ever. And that was every Quadeca song ranked. The tier list is on screen now. This video was a major reason why I had a bit of a break a couple months ago, because judging by this video's runtime, you can see this took a while. Despite that length, I really enjoyed making this one. Quadeca is one of my favorite artists, and I've been into Vanisher for a while, so it was great to talk about all of this. I plan on making more rankings of music artists I'm into, so I figure for each one of these, I'll update a little ranking of each artist I cover. Right now it's just Quadeca and Kendrick Lamar, and I gotta say, Kendrick is better. I think Vanisher is a better album than anything Kendrick has made, but like, Kendrick is better just for his impact and significantly better writing. Currently, the ranking is number 1 Kendrick and number 2 Quadeca, so I guess we'll see how that changes. How exciting. A lot of points I made about Vanisher were taken from Stage Dive's video about Vanisher, and he will be properly credited below. It's a great video essay that I highly recommend checking out. In only a couple weeks, I'm going to be doing my favorite films of 2025. It's going to be a lot, so yeah, subscribe for that. Thanks for watching, and this is an epic outro.
I'm actually really curious, but I don't want to be embarrassed. Let's play it. That's what the original scream was.